ended up losing my, this meeting is being live streamed.
And yeah, we're live, but just keep talking.
Okay, anyway, so it ended up in 2020 that I got an infection in my leg, and the only way to stop the infection from spreading to my body and killing me was to have my lower leg amputated. So they chopped it off on the lower left leg. They left me 10 inches hanging below my knee. I don't know if I can say that or not, but I'm not bragging here.
As long as you're not talking about 6 inches, we're good.
Okay, it was 10 inches, 10 inches below my leg, below my knee. And next week I'm getting a new prosthetic, and I'm very excited about it because they're going to ingrain on the carbon fiber. I have a wood grain pattern that they're going to put in, so it'll look like wood.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
and I'll have an articulating foot.
Well, I'm going to do the introduction to the show, and then I'm going to talk about my sponsors real quick, and then I'm going to talk about your intro, and then we're going to talk. So
Sounds good.
Now that you warmed people up that this is a talk show by talking, let me start the show here. You guys, welcome to Facebook Live. This is Comic Spot interview number 908. Now, I'm sorry, Michael, you weren't my first.
I'm not even second. I'm 908.
Today, we have a really special guest. I'll get to him in a minute. You can kind of take a peek over there and get his name. You don't need to Google him because I'm going to explain that in a minute.
Okay.
But for right now, just welcome to Comic Spot here on Facebook Live. Later on, it will be on my YouTube called Comedian Linda Marcus Smith with a bunch of other videos. But for now, it's live. Usually people don't watch it while we're live. They watch it after, and that's just fine. Share it with anybody who's military, because our esteemed guest today has done many tours for the military.
Three.
You heard it here live, 3 tours. So I just want you to kick back at home when you're watching. And the purpose of doing the interviews is so that you, my friends and fans, can get to know people that I love as I get to know them. So imagine yourself sitting at any random coffee shop over a cup of coffee, and up walks somebody, and you start talking and find out you have comedy in common. That's what this is. It's so you people at home can get to know comedians off stage behind any kind of a mask, and you can see what they're like so that when they come to town, you know if you want to go support them. You want to know if you want to follow them on Facebook or Instagram or, God forbid, TikTok. This is your chance to get to know who people are. So that's the whole impetus that I put behind the interviews. Just Chatty Cathy getting to know comedian as we
Chatty
comedians.
Cathy. I thought your name was Linda.
Chatty Cathy used to be a doll, and you had to pull a string to make her talk, but I did away with the string, got in the way. But anyway, so I have 2 sponsors. One is my friend and artist in Portland, Oregon, Steve Solomon. He does all my pictures. He turns them into artwork. Very unique and creative. So find him on Facebook, one of my friends, Steve Solomon, with the O's, Solomon, and he'll do your artwork for you too for a few pennies or dollars.
Sweet.
And then my other sponsor, you're gonna love this. My other sponsor is the veteransofcomedy.com. That's a military organization started by Eric Knowles and Willie Clifton. They're military veterans. So military people like myself are in a comedy troupe. We travel and do comedy for the military and other places. And so whenever you're looking to have someone who served our country serve up jokes, that's where you go to find some really good people to do comedy for you in your neck of the woods. It's veteransofcomedy.com. And now for the thing you've been waiting for all this Chatty Cathy time is our esteemed guest, He's going to try to interrupt me, but I'm not going to let him till I'm done with it. Nobody likes to hear their intro. Our guest today is Michael Walter. Let me tell you his intro, and I quote, because he sent it to me. He's a two-time finalist in the Seattle Comedy Competition. You guys, that is not an easy competition. We're not talking easy. To do it twice, that's something else. He's been on Showtime. You probably saw him on MTV and America's Funniest People. He's done 3 tours to the Middle East to entertain the troops. Woo!
Woo!
And he's a multiple award-winning Don Rickles tribute artist. So now
I'm a hockey puck.
welcome to Comic Spot, the Michael Walter. Woo!
Thank you. Woo! I'm excited. I'm here. I've
so
arrived.
glad. Yes, you've arrived. There's nothing else you need to do in life now that you've accomplished this.
I'm done. I can go now. I think I'll take a nap. I don't know.
Well, Michael Walter, what city are you sitting in front of right now? Where are you filming from?
I'm living in my home here in Olympia, Washington. I've been based out of Olympia, Washington for many, many years, except for the year I lived in Laughlin, Nevada. I lived there for a year and I did shows at Harrah's Casino. I was the comedy star of Showgirls. Of course, Laughlin, you know, is the home of the newlyweds and nearly deads. There's a lot of old people there. And I'll tell you how old they were. I put a glass of water down. I came back. There was a set of teeth in them. That's old.
It's a good one. Oh
yes.
My gosh.
I was at Harrah's for a year. Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. Some of the young people don't know what Harrah's is anymore, but it's a big deal. And it was a big deal in Vegas for many decades.
It was one of the largest gaming consortiums in the country.
Wow.
I think they've been bought out by Caesars now, though, too. So.
Got it.
Uh-huh.
Well, you know, you're living in Olympia, which is the upper left side of the U.S. map.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it like for you, your family, friends going through the pandemic, if you don't mind me asking?
Quiet. It was very, very quiet. I was doing a lot of travel. I would travel both coasts. I used to do a lot of work in Florida. Why? Because old people get Don Rickles. They're not offended by Don, which today, and I don't know if we mentioned this, today is 5 years since Don passed away. 5 years ago at age 91, but he was a tremendous guy and just a sweetheart of a man. I got to meet him 4 different times. I told him I was doing a tribute show to him, and he looked at me and he said, "Looking at you is like looking in a mirror." That's exactly what it is.
Oh, how cool is that?
Yes, yeah. So it was a great experience meeting Don and doing a show. And I do the tribute show to him. So I go to Florida to do that because a lot of East Coast people can relate to Don and they don't get offended that easily.
No, that's so true.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go back in time. You're a Don Rickles impersonator at this time, and you do a tribute show.
Yes.
So
since I've lost all my hair.
I can't wait to lose mine. God knows what I'll do. But let's go back. My luck, it'll be Jada Pinkett. But let's go back in time and let's talk about who in the heck were you growing up in your family and in school? Paint us a picture what that was like.
Very quiet. I was a very quiet man. I was an artist. I was a cartoonist during high school. I had a chance to go to work for Disney when I got out of high school, and I blew it. I didn't go, and I was going to join the military. Of course, I graduated in 1969.
Me too.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah.
I'll be 71 next month, Linda.
I'm ahead of you.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah.
Well, I like older women, so there you go. Yeah, class of 69, and I was going to go to art school and then go to work for Disney, but it was the 60s. I was a rebel. I did a lot of bad things. So, and then I went to work at a Georgia Pacific Corporation. I worked for Georgia Pacific for 14 years, and I was a union rep. And I got hurt on the.
What were you?
I was a union rep for him.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a shop steward. I was vice president of the local union. I was a rabble rouser. Excuse me. And then I got hurt on the job, and they said, you know, there's nothing here for you to do. Well, I had no training because I went to work right there after I got out of high school. And so I could always tell the joke pretty well. And I started doing stand-up comedy on a dare.
No way. Tell me about
Yes.
that.
Well, I was out celebrating the birth of my youngest son, and I was getting drunk, and I was at a bar in downtown Olympia, and they had a contest. It said, "So you think you're funny?" And I said, "You know, I'm pretty funny. I can do this." And I was drunk, and I signed up for this contest. Well, a couple of days later, they called me up to remind me that I had signed up for this contest, and told me that I had to do a routine, write out a 15-minute routine. So I wrote out a routine about my wife giving birth to a baby. And I went on stage, and I didn't win. I came in second place. And the MC of the show was a comic from Venice, California, who encouraged me to start going up to Seattle and hitting the open mics. So I would go to work in the morning at 7 a.m., Georgia Pacific, get off work at 3:30 in the afternoon, go home, take a nap, get up, drive up to Seattle, which was an hour drive, hit the open mic, stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning, drive home, go to bed, get up. And I did that 4 nights a week. You get 4 nights a week at the open mics. And I did that until I got good enough that I started getting hired as an MC. And then I ended up getting hurt, and they got rid of me. So I said, you know what? I think I'll make this comedy thing my deal. I entered the Spokane Comedy Competition in 1983. I started doing this in 81. In 1983, I entered the Spokane Comedy Competition, and I was just about to make the finals when my wife, which was my second wife at that time, said, "Well, now you're married to comedy. I want a divorce." Well, the next night I didn't make the finals. I ended up driving home, and I ended up moving back. I moved back to Spokane, and I started the first comedy club they ever had in Spokane.
No way.
Yes. So
what comedy club was that?
Well, it was the Red Lion Tavern. It was on the corner of Main and Division. It had the best barbecued ribs and wine broiled chicken in town. And we did comedy there every weekend. And then I ended up putting together a run of comedy shows. So I had a week's worth of work, and I would hire comics from Portland, Seattle, and whatnot. They would all come to town, and we'd do a week of traveling around. A lot of them stayed at my house that I had in Spokane. It was a horrible house. I paid $100 a month because it had no heat, no insulation, and the winters were brutal. So we stayed at these houses, and then it just got on to the point to where I started going out on the road. I lived in Spokane from 83 to 87, and was going out on the road, and I started traveling around the country. I ended up, I had a, what is it, 84 Chevy S10 Blazer that I ended up putting 475,000 miles on before it finally gave up the ghost. And then I got a Volvo station wagon that I put 350,000 miles on. I drove all over the country doing comedy from the West Coast to the East Coast, and a lot in the Midwest. Okay. And down south. I would go down to the down south.
I have to ask you, you're telling me that you have a wealth of knowledge about doing comedy across our country.
Yes.
So with that in mind, could you shed a little light for non-comics and comics to get a grasp of comedy around the country? And I know it changes over the years, but what's that like?
Well, if you're funny, you're funny. It works out that way. It doesn't matter where you go as long as you're funny. Working in the Bible Belt was an odd thing, because they kind of look at you going, "Well, you know, that doesn't go over very well here." But it ended up. I ended up working with a lot of really famous. I had comics that opened for me that went on to become absolutely famous, and I just pretty much stayed at the same level. Yeah, Mitch Hedberg.
Give up any names?
Sure, Mitch Hedberg. Are you familiar with Mitch Hedberg? Yes. Mitch Hedberg opened for me. Patton Oswalt opened for me. Brian Posehn, was an opening act. We did these things called Tribble runs. Have you ever heard of these? Yeah, Tribble runs were the worst runs. David Tribble was the greatest guy in the world. Can I cuss on this?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, I was living in Spokane at that time, and David came, and he had about 8 or 9 weeks worth of work. And he looked at me and he told me, he said, you know, Mike, if you change this, this, and this, and this in your act, I can put you through all my clubs. And I was planning on moving to San Antonio, Texas. I was going to take a job as a house MC at a comedy club down there. And I told him, I said, you know, David, I'm moving to Texas. Take those comedy clubs and shove them up your ass. And then I didn't move. And about 3 months later, I called David and he goes, hello. I said, David, Mike Wally Walter. He said, hi, Mike, how are you? I said, you know those clubs I told you to shove up your ass? He goes, yeah. I said, pull them suckers out. I need to work them. So he started laughing and he started booking me again. And David and I have been friends for a long, long time. In fact, when I went through my cancer, I got diagnosed with cancer. When I was going through my cancer treatments, he was the only agent that called me on a weekly basis to find out how I was doing. I owe David a great debt of gratitude, and he's a good friend, and he's retired now. I have no work.
I saw you posting on Facebook that you are available for people to book you.
Yes.
And when we get done with the interview in 15 minutes or whatever, I'll throw out there for bookers and agents to book you. How far are you willing to travel?
You know, it all depends. I don't drive anymore. In 2018, I had to have open heart surgery. I'd already been doing my RICKLES tribute act. And so when I had my open heart surgery, they had to replace my aortic valve. And they were going to put a pig's valve in me. And I said, you can't put a pig's valve in me. I do a Jew on stage, for crying out loud. What the hell's the matter with you? So they put a bovine valve in me. So the blood is just moving through my body now. But while I was on the table, I had a minor stroke and I lost peripheral vision on my left side. So I don't drive anymore. I'm working with my friend Chris Kemper, who drives me, and that's one of the reasons I've taken him under wing. I'm trying to teach him the road and teach him some lessons on how to do comedy, and he's doing really, really well. He's a brilliant one-liner guy, and I love traveling with him. So we get in the car and we'll go to these gigs, and he does the driving, and I pitch in for gas. But like I say, I've worked with a lot of famous people. Brian Posehn did the Tribbles runs with me. Patton Oswalt did the Tribble run with me. Mitch Hedberg, who's gone on to a lot of things. Andrew Rivers, who's becoming very, very popular now, was my opening act for a long, long time. So I was very fortunate to work with these guys. Do they remember me now? No.
They better.
Some of them do. Brian will say hi to me when he comes to town.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you've made it through the pandemic, even though you had some outstanding health concerns. Did you get COVID or did anyone?
Nope.
Good.
Yeah, never came close to getting COVID. Just pretty much, I've got all my boosters, my vaccinations, wore the mask wherever I had to go, all that good stuff. So yeah, you know, it was just one of those deals. The work cut out on me. I had just started getting bookings on, I was working for American Cruise Lines, which does riverboat cruises up the Columbia River. Have you ever seen the paddle wheelers that go up there? Yeah. I was doing those. And then I was doing cruises in the San Juans. And then they had a ship that went up to Alaska. These were small cruise ships, 175 passengers. Which was great because they really get taken good care of. It's a wonderful cruise line. And I would go up to like Friday Harbor or Seattle. And then I'd go down to the Dalles, Oregon, or Hood River. And I'd go down and then get a hotel room, jump on the ship, have dinner, do the show, and then get up. And they paid me wonderful money. And I'm still waiting to get work from them this year. American Cruise Lines, my favorite cruise line in the world, needs to book Mike Wally Walter again as Don Rickles.
Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness. So what is it that you've done comedy for decades?
40 years.
Wow.
I just started my 40th year of doing comedy.
So what would you like to tell people who are not comics about comedy today? And what would you like to tell young comics about comedy today over the years, or anything like it? What would you like to impart?
I would like everybody to get their sense of humor back. We've become too serious in this country today. Everything is that whole Will Smith, Chris Rock thing slapping, it was a joke. And, he laughed at the joke originally, and Jada laughed too until she thought about it. And then she got angry. And then Will said, if I don't go up and do something about it, I'm not going to get any here for a while. So he did. And it's ruined his career. But it's also put a black mark on the face of comedy. People just need to lighten up. I mean, seriously, RICKLES wouldn't be able to make it today in today's society just because people are so sensitive, and they just need to lighten up. It's humor, it's comedy. Let's have some fun, laugh at each other. I love the old days of the Rat Pack group and all that stuff. It was just phenomenal, and people are too uptight today.
So uptight.
Yeah.
So uptight. How difficult is it in the business to sustain a career over 4 decades like you have? What are the ups and downs you want to tell people about, to prepare themselves if they're thinking about, or have someone in their family thinking about doing comedy?
Well, a lot of comics today, they're hobbyists. That's what I call them. They all have day jobs. They have day jobs, and then they go out and do comedy at night, and then they think that they're comedians. Well, you got to suffer a little bit in the comedy world, and a lot of comics have suffered, and it's not an easy gig. I mean, it's a tough job. I don't make a lot of money doing this. I would like to make more. I would like to be at the level of a Brian Posehn or a Patton Oswalt, where you're getting all this other kind of stuff. But I'm just, I look at it this way. When I started out, I was taken under wing by a gentleman by the name of Bob Hansen. And Bob was 70 years old at that time. And he took me under wing, and he taught me a lot of great lessons, show up to the gig on time, don't sleep all day, get up in the morning, get to where you're going to go, the gig you're going to go to, the hotel that you're going to be at, be there so that the club doesn't worry about, hey, is a comic in town or anything like that. Take a nap in the afternoon, get up and prepare yourself, go down, do the show, do the gig. And his theory was, as long as he can make enough money to buy fishing gear so he could go fishing when he was off, he was a happy camper. And that's all I am, as long as I can pay my rent and buy groceries. I don't have I don't have a car anymore because I don't drive. My significant other, and I've been with her for 14 years, but Linda, I've got 5 ex-wives. It's not an easy lifestyle for a comedian. My significant other has a car, and she drives me to a lot of my gigs. So,
well, what is the secret to keeping a relationship alive? You say 13 years with her?
14 years with her.
14. So what's the secret to being committed to your job and keeping a relationship alive in a crazy business?
Try to keep it fresh. Let her know how much you care about her. When I go on a gig, if she's not gone with me or she's not going with me, I call her when I get to my hotel. I don't party. I quit drinking. Like 20 years ago, I quit drinking, and I used to party a lot, and I wasn't married at that time, but we've been together for 14 years. I don't drink. So I go, I do my gig, I go back to my hotel, I give her a call, hey, I'm going to bed, good night, blah, 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 I love you, and we're good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of comedians that don't have support at home. And having said what you just said, I would assume that some of the support you can get at home is by incorporating them into your life when you're on the road.
Yes. Yeah, she's incorporated in my life constantly, and she's a blessing. I'm like a drummer in a band,
How'd you meet her? How did you meet?
Oh, the one I'm with now? Because I tell you, I have 5 ex-wives. But this one, I had a crush on her, Linda. This is a true story. Her mom went to school with my dad
No
in
way.
Raymond, Washington, a town 100 miles away from us.
Yeah.
And I have known her, and I've had a crush on her since junior high. And I never asked her out. She was married for 30 years. And I have the 5 ex-wives. And at a point in time, I was in the Seattle comedy competition. Now, we talked about that, but I'd like to talk about it a little bit more.
Absolutely.
I was in a Seattle comedy competition 15 years ago. And her sister saw me at one of the semifinal shows in Edmonds, Washington, and said, hey, I ran into one of your classmates, saw a show, he was pretty funny, blah, blah, blah. I ended up, I think I came in 2nd place that night. And she sent me an email and said, I heard you did really well, would love to have a drink with you sometime, just chat and all this stuff. And she didn't know I had a crush on her. And I sat on that invite for almost 2 months before I finally called her and said, look, I got a show in town. I'd like to take you out to dinner and take you to see my show. And we had our 40th high school reunion coming up. And I took her out to dinner and she said, oh, you're pretty nervous. And I said, well, my show's not the cleanest show in the world. And she said, you gave me your DVD when you ran into me at the post office, your CD. And I said, oh, okay, I'm good. And so we had a wonderful dinner. She watched the show. We talked until 3 o'clock in the morning. I took her home. I asked her if she'd like to go to the 40th reunion with me. She said yes. I kissed her goodnight and left. And then we started dating. And we've been together ever since. That was February 9th, 14 years ago.
My goodness sakes. That's fabulous.
She's a wonderful woman. And she has a son. And he's got a child. It's going to be 3 years old in June. Wow. And so we get to spend the weekends with him. And I have 3 children and 5 grandkids on my side of the family. So I don't get to see a lot of them at all because the grandkids live in Salem, Oregon. And that's quite a jaunt from Olympia to Salem. So I don't get, but I talk to them at least on a weekly basis.
Oh, so. Good job. How old are your children, Michael?
My oldest is 48. My son is 48 years old. My daughter's 46 years old, and my son is 40. My youngest son is 40, so he's as old as I've been doing comedy. I started doing comedy because of him. I got drunk.
Yeah. The night you were celebrating.
Yes.
His birth.
And I've done 14 of the Seattle comedy competitions.
What?
Yes. I think I did 14 of them total. I made the semifinals 12 times, made the finals twice. What? Yeah. The first 2 years I didn't do very well, and then I made it into the semifinals. I was the ever 6th place. I didn't make the top 5 at the end of the week, but I would come in 6th place, like eight years in a row. I was 6th place, and then I finally made it a couple of times into the top 5, and I came in 4th the first time I made the finals, and then I came in 3rd place.
My goodness. So in your life early on, had you ever thought about comedy?
I always loved comedy. I would watch comedy on TV all the time. Comics were my favorite my favorite thing to watch. I could always tell a joke, but I never thought about becoming a comic. I was going to be an artist. And, things just worked out that I entered this contest, and the guy that was the MC of the contest said, you've got a natural stage presence. You ought to go up and hit the open mics. And I did. And I got a lot of encouragement from the guys up in the Seattle area that were doing the open mics. They encouraged me a lot. And so I just started doing that. And then I moved to Spokane in 81. Or 83, I moved to Spokane and started doing the comedy clubs there, booking the comedy clubs, and it just went from there. I had a deal where I would tell comics, don't try to peak before you're ready. I booked myself as a headliner at this comedy club in Calgary, Alberta, and it was called the Brass Rail. Or, no, it was Snickers Comedy Club in Calgary, Alberta. And I went up there and I was booked for a week. And I'll be truthful with you, I was horrible. It was the worst experience of my life. In fact, at the end of the week, I kind of stuck my hand behind my back as the guy handed me the check for the week, and I just said, "I'm really sorry," because I was not ready to headline. And 5 years later, I called Yuck Yucks Comedy Club circuit, and I was trying to get work up there. And the guy that I talked to, who was booking Yuck Yucks, was the guy that ran Snickers Comedy Club. And I said, "Yeah, it's comedian Mike Wally Walter, and I was just calling to see if I could get some work up there doing this." And he goes, "Mike Wally Walter, why does that sound familiar?" And I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Bill Robinson." I said, "Bill, didn't you used to be the booker at the Snickers Comedy Club?" And he goes, "That's where I remember you from." And I went, yeah, that was." And he goes, "Yeah, I remember you. You were horrible." And I went, well, Bill, that was 5 years. I'm much better now." And he goes, No, you were really bad." And I didn't get. I said, "But that was 5 years. I'm much better now." And so I never got to work for Yuck Yucks.
Oh my gosh, you wouldn't
Yeah.
forgive it and give you another chance?
They eventually did. About 8 years later, after that, I started working Yuck Yucks in Victoria. And then I got to the point where I said, if I never have to work Canada again, I'll be a happy camper, because I hated the money and I hated the food up there. And it was a lot of travel and a lot of tundra. It was just, there's a lot of not a lot of stuff there, but I've been all over. I've been to Alaska. I used to love to go to Alaska like 3 or 4 times a year. I've done Anchorage and all over. And then I got on this deal where I went overseas to entertain the troops. So I've been to Bahrain. I went to Kuwait, and then I went to Iraq. And when I was in Iraq, I stayed at Saddam Hussein's daughter's palace.
What in the world?
Yes, that was where they were putting us up. There were 3 of us that went. I got to drive a tank. I got to shoot a 50 caliber machine gun. I hit golf balls off of Saddam Hussein's balcony. I sat in both of his thrones. He had a golden toilet. And then, of course, his throne that he got from Yasser Arafat with a cross tusk. I got to sit in both of his thrones, and I took a dump in 2 of them. Anyway.
What was it like doing comedy for our troops?
I loved it. It was the most rewarding experience, because I'd look out there, and when I started doing comedy, I was 30 years old. So I was old when I started. I mean, I was working with these kids that were 22, 23. They're the headliners, and I'm driving them around, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell are these kids going to talk about? They haven't even lived life yet. And then I got over to Iraq, and I'm doing these shows, and it was really amazing, because every morning at 7 a.m., we would be outside Saddam's palace, and they would pick us up and they would take us down to the airstrip, and we would jump on a Black Hawk helicopter. And we would fly out to a forward operating base, and we'd do a show there. And then we'd have lunch and meet the troops and sign autographs, and get pictures taken with them and all this stuff. And then we'd jump on the Black Hawk again, fly to another base, do a show. We did 3 shows a day, and I was there. I did 5 days in Kuwait and 15 days in Iraq. And the best experience I ever had was I came back and I was in Belfair, Washington, which is up by Bremerton, the Navy base. And I was doing a show, and this kid came up to me at the end of the show, and he said, "I just want to thank you for your show." And I said, "Oh, you enjoyed it tonight?" And he said, "Well, no, I enjoyed it tonight too," but he said, "I was in Iraq and I watched you perform, and it meant so much to us that you were there." And I started crying. It choked me up so much that they thought so much of us that we did that. And I was actually 4F. I never got to join the military, so I did that because I wanted to give something to them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I was in Germany for 2.5 years of my 3-year enlistment, and nobody came and did comedy for us. And
really?
So it really means a lot to me to hear that you went so far away from your home to entertain the troops. Thank you so much for doing that.
Well, it was an absolute honor. I have certificates on my wall over here from the Iron Rakkasans, and I got a lot of challenge coins from each troop that I, all the different divisions and whatnot that I did, and letters, and it was just an amazing thing.
Everybody I've talked to that's done a military tour has said that's the high point of their entire life, not just their comedy life, their life.
Yeah, I mean, it was an experience that I'll never forget. It was a seriously a life-changing experience for me. I mean, I'm just a guy from Olympia, and I got to go overseas, and I got to see these places, and I got to stay at this palace, and I got to entertain these kids, and I swam in the Euphrates River. I was in a tank. I got to drive a tank. I got to do all this stuff that I wouldn't do in a normal situation, and how much they appreciated just the fact that we were there was an amazing. I mean, flying in a Black Hawk helicopter, a Black Hawk was an amazing deal, and I only got scared a couple of times.
Oh my God.
we got shelled when I was flying from Kuwait to Iraq. We were flying on a C-130s, or is that what they're?
That's one of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were flying on one of those, and we hit a sandstorm, so we had to land in Kirkuk. And we were in Kirkuk, and we went into. They said, "Oh, you guys can take a nap, lay down and rest till the sandstorm's over." And the Iraqis started shelling us, and we heard all these explosions going on, and they were shelling the airstrip. And I got a little panic. I went in there and I said, "What's going on?" They said, "The Iraqis are shelling the airstrip." And I go, "Oh, well, what do we do?" And they said, "It's about lunchtime. Let's go have some lunch." We went in and I ate steak and lobster.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the Air Force had it good. The Air Force got good food. We had, I think I had like three lobster tails and a steak. Pudding. I liked pudding. my MWR officer, we were in the mess hall eating, and she came in and she said, "We're ready to go. We got to go." And I said, "I'm eating my pudding." And she said, "But we got to go." I said, "But I'm eating my pudding." And she said, but we got to go. And I said, "Doggone it, I'm eating my pudding." And she said, "We got to go." So I had to throw my pudding away, and I went, and we got to the helicopter or the chopper, and we had to wait another 45 minutes. I said, I could have been eating my pudding. So the next morning she showed up. When she came to pick us up, she brought me those Hunt's snack packs of pudding. I bought this for you.
Well, I have to cut this short because I have another interview, and it takes a few minutes to render this video to get to the next one.
Okay.
But when you want to come back and tell more stories, I want you to come back. You've got road stories, you've got military comedy stories. I want you back on to have a whole nother time to tell your stories. Would you do that?
I would love to. And now that we have this Zoom thing figured out, I'm sorry it took me so long to get it going, but I would love to. And it was an honor, and just very nice to meet you, Linda. And thank you for your service.
Thank you for saying that. And before we go, I want you to tell people why they should book you and how they can follow you on social media. Would you do that in closing?
Certainly. I'm Mike Wally Walter on Facebook. I'm also Don Rickles Impersonator on Facebook. And you can follow me on that. I will be performing locally in the area here. I'm doing Elks Clubs, Moose Lodges. And hopefully I'll be at the Italian American Club in Las Vegas, Nevada, doing a show with the wonderful Tom Stevens, who's an excellent Dean Martin. He also does Tom Jones. And I just want to thank you so much. And I really appreciate you reaching out to me to do this interview. Thank you.
As soon as I get done with my next interview, I'll hit you up to get a day and time that you want to do the next interview to tell more stories, please.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you, Michael Walter.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.